All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Module 4, Operationalizing Threat Intelligence. It's part of Project Obsidian. So let's go ahead and kind of jump right in here. So again, we'll start with our objective for this module. And we're going to sort of iterate over the CTI lifecycle here, touching on each phase as we go along. And yeah, just want to point out to remember that opportunities for growth exist within each phase. So just be mindful of that. Always keep an eye out for opportunities for growth as you're working your way through this. All right, so the objective here is short and sweet, right? We want to demonstrate how a report can be operationalized. Most organizations don't release intrusion reports and give all of the nitty-gritty details. However, there are some companies and groups of people who do produce reports, in-depth technical reports. Could be based on honeypot data or whatever the case might be. So really, this is an example of doing that very thing. So planning and direction here. Right, so we want to establish goals and objectives during this phase. So hopefully that's done. And these goals and objectives can be separate and distinct from intelligence requirements, or they can pair with intelligence requirements as well. So no hard and fast rule there. But all of this helps drive the work that we do as CTI analysts. For this demonstration, some of our goals and objectives are to perform, to sweep the environment for IOCs, to present opportunities for blocks and detections to our SOC and IT teams. We also want to see if we can come up with some new hunts, some new threat hunts, and to help see if we have detections and blocks in place, we can create Purple Team test cases based on this incident. So we'll touch on that a little bit. And situational awareness is great for everybody across the board. Forensics team, management team, and executives as well. And so here's just a mind map of visualizing how our goals and objectives inform and engage with different teams across the organization. All right, so we'll get into collection here. So again, just like we do in the real world, we're using a report as our data source. In our case, we're using information gleaned from kill chain 3. If your organization is just starting out, this information might be tracked on an internal wiki, a spreadsheet, something else, or a combination of these. So do what works best for you. And again, this is another opportunity for growth, perhaps. So we're going to review the report. We're going to identify and extract all of the data and information that we find useful, and we're going to store that, tag it, sort it, etc. Sometimes this can be automated, or parts of this can be automated. So keep an eye out for those opportunities as well, if you're using a tip, for example. So moving right along, processing. So we're taking a report and we're going to identify the data, pieces of data, information, and intelligence, and pull all of that in. And yeah, automation of this can be useful, especially if you're using a tip and integrating with a SIM. And again, look for opportunities to develop this phase of the CTI lifecycle as well. Yeah, for example, automating IOC sweeps. So we can collect this data, consume it, and then just have that automation on the back end send out to our SIM to perform that automated search. Analysis and production. So for this, we're really, for this demonstration, for this example, we're really going to be focused on production more than analysis. So we're basing this off of a report from a peer organization, Magnum Tempus. That's not us. We're just taking a report from them. And these are some of the things that we're going to include. It's a good place to get started. There's more things that you could include. Maybe you leave out one or two things. So your mileage may vary here, but this is at least a good place to start. Beyond the report, it's worth mentioning, we want to get, so the goal is to really get the data that we need to the teams who need it, right? So we want to be sure that whatever we're supplying defenders, IT, the forensics team, the threat hunt team, that we're providing the appropriate data in the appropriate format, or the required data, I should say, in the appropriate format for them. In order to accomplish that, data management is critical, right? How is data documented, standardized, and modeled across the different teams? One team might utilize this heavily, and while another team might not, and that's okay. And also, how is data quality measured? That's important as well. And it's important, someone should be in charge of this. This shouldn't fall on any one team necessarily, or one person to make it happen. But someone should be in charge of this. Hopefully someone with some data management background knowledge, right? This is a great resource. All of these links link off to the Threat Hunter playbook. So thank you, Cyber War Dog, for that. Again, it's a great resource to get started. Start thinking about this if you're not already. It really is critical to make sure everyone has what they need. And yep, so definitely want to call that out here. And moving right along, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Lucid. Oh, your audio.
Our first reset here.
Perfect.
This is an IOC list that we've gotten from the report that we've been given based on the kill chain. And we can see here that there's both URLs and domains. The URLs look like they either point to tools that are commonly used in exploitation, or other malicious files. So a couple of domains that I recognize as kind of ephemeral file transfer services that might be used for exfiltration. So these would be passed along in a list format or some other format to the other teams. The SOC and the IT teams might want to look through the environment, look through firewall logs with a list like this, and see, is there any activity that matches this IOC list? And they might want to block things like these file transfer services because there might not be any legitimate use in the environment for that kind of thing. So you could quickly be able to pass a list that you've gotten from a report like this on and immediately take action on it. This could be a spreadsheet or a CSV file. Sticks feeds or a sticks feed could be another common way to capture and store IOCs. A lot of organizations would use a tip and then automate the distribution of a list like this to the various tools in the environment. There's also In production, you could have a report summary that use the diamond model of intrusion. This visually and quickly shows the infrastructure that's been found, the kinds of victims, or a specific victim, in this case, the kind of victim, a financial organization or a financial organization too. So this would be important. And all the capabilities that were found. And maybe it's possible also an adversary or threat that might have been identified. This is a good way to visualize a summary of the information, but spreadsheets, use a spreadsheet like this might not scale very well. You could also pull a list of TTPs that are laid out in the MITRE attack, that use the MITRE attack framework. Here we see lists of tactics, techniques, and procedures. And you can see some of these are sub-techniques, some of these are not, but at any rate, this is a quick visualization and list that could be consumed by other teams, defense teams. And this is a visualization of that same spreadsheet from before. This shows areas for better visualization and detection, and ways to harden the environment based on what you know about the techniques. This is a good visual to include, good thing to distribute. This is based again off of the Obsidian Kill Chain 3. This isn't all the details from Kill Chain 3, but this is a good visualization of some of the main things that happened during that kill chain. There's another format that this could go in. You could go ahead, you could create a visualization like in the previous slide of the attack Navigator layer. You could actually export that as a JSON file. That could be useful that could be preferred by one of the teams. They could already have a way to consume JSON files, and it would actually save them time. And so that would be a reason to do it this way. And we're also going to need a concise overview of the incident. There may have been a summary of some kind in the original report that we received, but we may want to take bits and pieces of that. But for instance, this could be a report intended for executives, and it could answer some of the questions that we know that our executives are going to have. You know, this is important because it was another financial institution, another financial company. And it should go through all the how, what, how, and why motivations. You know, of course, every executive is going to ask how to prevent, hey, this happened to another company. How are we going to prevent it from happening to us? And you can include that in the executive summary. Dissemination. This is just another map of all of the different stakeholders for dissemination. And we want to have documented what the details that will be made available to stakeholders. Just have this, you know, already defined for when we get reports like this. And then as far as feedback and evaluation, this is really defined during the planning and direction phase, and it'll already have laid out a process for providing the feedback the CTI team needs. So people already know where to go if they have feedback on the product that gets produced or the dissemination of the report that we've received. Because this is critical, you know, it's critical that all of the teams, the stakeholders can ask for what they need and help us to improve the product that we're giving them, the products that we're giving them that come from reports like these. And we can use the CART model to evaluate CTI. And this is just, is it complete? Is it accurate? Is it relevant? And is it timely? And here are resources. You can use the MITRE attack Navigator. If you're working on something with kill chain 3, you can use this tool to help you out, or within your department.
All right, great. Yeah. Thank you, Lucid. Thanks everyone for joining. And in the appendix here, we do have an appendix going over the CART model here. So this will be available in the slides once we make those available. Again, join the conversation. There's a link to our Discord. Yep, we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you at DEF CON. If you see us, feel free to pull us aside, ask questions, and yeah, we look forward to continuing the conversation. So thanks everyone. Cheers. All right. Hey, welcome to the demo. Going to be covering Maltego here, using the community edition. And just a quick overview of Maltego. It is a link analysis tool, and you'll see what I mean by that here in a minute. But it has these transforms here. So this is a way for us to basically, using an API here behind the scenes, we can use these other services to find out more information about what we're looking at, whatever it is we're investigating. For this example, we're going to look at an IP address. But here's a long list of, there are more on the paid version, but that you can include. Yeah, this is the community version here. Some of these are free, many of them are. You just need that API access. So, if you're using hybrid analysis, you need to have an account on hybrid analysis and then link to it within Maltego. So that was just a super quick overview of Maltego. Here I have a graph, and you see this IP address. When I right click on this, you'll see all of the available transforms that can be executed. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to create a new graph. So that opens up a new tab here. And since I'm interested in investigating an IP address, I'm going to drag this over and add it to the graph. Now this is just the default value here, but I'm going to come over here, copy pasta this. All right. Now I can just run all transforms and see what we get. Or you can run them one at a time. So let's just go ahead and run them all. So that way we'll just get everything one fell swoop there. All right, so it looks like lots of stuff. And when I zoom out here, kind of see what's a little bit more of what's going on. I can zoom in. Here, this number of results. This is a nice feature. You can knock this down to a low number, and so then that way it'll group a bunch of these together, all of the ones that are similar. So right away we see some interesting details here. So this IP address is known to be used as a VPN, it looks like. Potentially some used in bot activity. So maybe some malware was reaching out to this, a proxy potential there as well. Now we have some JavaScript, text, XML, more JavaScript. Yeah, we see something associated with advisory, and that's understandable. This is basically comes from a CISA alert, this IP address. And there's something else interesting here. Here's an executable. Here's a DLL rather, but it's a PE file. If we right click this and run the virus total transform, let's see what happens. All right, great. So we got some hits. So let's see what was returned here. All right, we have some hash values, additional IP addresses, and some tags associated with it, being a PE, assembly, runtime modules, 64-bit. All right. So if we take, so this is great, right? Maltego has provided us lots of additional information and context now. So we know this IP address is malicious. Safe to say that, or at least at one point in time it was. And this DLL is associated with that IP address, could have been hosted on it. And well, what is this DLL? Not sure exactly. Looks like some sort of virus, looks like it's malicious, right? So this is where, if we double click this, we can find out more details about this entity here. And so we can come in, we can copy paste this hash here. And I kind of can break out, drop this in virus total and do a search and see what the results are. So yeah, wow. Trojan downloader, Trojan generic, Cryptor, XGen, Cobalt Strike, Trojan. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. So yeah, clearly malicious, right? So now we can look at some of these other tabs, and I hope this text is large enough. I zoomed in quite a bit. So we can kind of run through here. Yep, it's associated with that DLL. Okay. We knew that, but it's good to confirm that. Some other domains associated with this, additional IP addresses as well. These should have popped up in our graph here. Yes, you can see those there. So those were pulled in by Maltego. Behavior, some interesting details perhaps. Here's some registry keys that are set. So yeah, we could toss these over to our SOC analysts. Perhaps if there's an ongoing forensics investigation, we can pass some of these details over to the forensics team. Potentially give them some information that they're not aware of. So that's useful. And some processes that were terminated, which means these were also running when this occurred. So that could be a useful clue there as well. And you see this process tree, or a couple processes, one sort of tree there. Okay. So great, we're finding more information after doing just a couple pivots there. And look at this, here we go. It is associated with Conti. No surprise, I knew that going into this because this provides a good example. Not everything leads to this or this deep or this rich, but just want to demonstrate the possibilities that it can, right? And also the importance of utilizing different tools during our investigation. No one tool is going to give us everything we want, but that's why it's nice to have a tool belt, and we have a bunch of tools we can select and choose from depending on what it is we're trying to accomplish and what information, what data we have. So, and then we can kind of view this in different ways here in Maltego. So this is a nice view as it sort of centralizes things, and you can see if there's overlap between entities. There's another view as well. So perhaps, there's additional infrastructure that we can may want to investigate, or additional pieces of malware or domains that we may want to investigate as well. And can go back to that original view here. So started out with an IP address, and we were able to pivot. We were able to identify an executable or a DLL and pivot on that, find its hash, and find that it's associated with Conti. All right. Hope you enjoy that. Just a brief overview of Maltego and brief overview on pivoting. All right. Thank you.